blend, right? we might need some more wine for this.
So let's get this party started, y'all. Hey, my sister, Mademoiselle.
That is the most amazing introduction I've ever heard.
Oh, for being here. Oh, what an amazing day. Go make it even more amazing. Myself and Madison, Brian Westley Johnson. Thank you for joining us on Saturday morning. Full of passion, purpose, and high quality living. See you next time. Bye. Happy New Year, everybody. My name is Brian Westley Johnson, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Soulivity Live, the first Soulivity Live of 2019. I'm so glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us. Today, we have a special event made just for you. We are talking about how to make this new year an amazing experience with a complete inside-out makeover. Yep, I'm talking about this way of supporting you in becoming an even better new you. Now, what do I mean by that, or what do we mean by that? Well, with the help of our awesome and inspirational panel, we will discuss how to increase the amount of love, joy, happiness you experience through re-envisioning your approach to setting and accomplishing goals. Believe me, at the end of this show, you will have a different perspective on how to create your best life. So, since we have a lot to talk about, let me introduce you to our amazing panel. So, let's see. Let me start off with my man, Howard.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Now, Howard Caesar has been speaking, teaching, and inspiring audiences with his transformational spiritual messages since his 20s. Recognized as a leader in his field, he has served and built 2 large ministries, the most recent being in Houston, Texas, where he served for 30 plus years. His positive, practical, progressive approach to spirituality has empowered thousands of people to live happier, more prosperous, and fulfilling lives. In his new book, 1 + 1 is 1, Howard shares the fundamental truth of our lives, that we are one. And with that truth, the secret sauce to living fuller, happier, and being more joyful. So thank you for being here, Howard.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Brian.
So let me move on to these 2 folks here, these beautiful folks. You might know them as mom and dad, but they're Jesse and Melva Johnson. As relationship coaches and counselors, Jesse and Melva are committed to supporting healthy relationships. They have over 60 years of combined experience as psychotherapists, relationship educators, workshop leaders, public speakers, authors, and consultants. And they worked hard to live the message they teach in their marriage and in their family, as well as being business partners. Their book, Mining for Gold in Your Marriage, contains stories of 14 real-life people who have used their unique process to transform their relationships. So thank you for being here, guys.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
And last but not least, my girl all the way in Bali. Ilona, how are you?
Happy New Year, Brian. Remember, I live in your future.
Ilona Selke is an international best-selling author, seminar leader, lecturer, musician, and CEO and co-founder of Living from Vision, woohoo! A company she has been running with her husband for over 30 years, as well as the owner and creator of the Shambhala Retreat Center on the North Shore of Bali. For over 3 decades, Ilona has inspired thousands of people worldwide to discover the power of their consciousness and create a successful life. Her new book, Dream Big, The Universe is Listening, offers real-life stories of transformation as well as practical tips anyone can use to shape-shift their lives from the inside out. Wow, what a panel!
Wow.
This is going to be great. Oh my gosh. So, as always, everybody, listen. We love your questions. So at any given point, just send your questions here and we're going to get to as many of them as we possibly can throughout the show. So let's get this party started, y'all. I want to start by talking a little bit about where this all thing starts, right? I mean, what is it about us and New Year's resolutions? I mean, this is the thing that happens every single year. And it seems as though we go through this process and we get disappointed. So I'm going to start with you, Howard. What do you believe is why do we do this to ourselves every year?
Well, for some, they're very methodical about it. For others, it's kind of like they're at a party and they're asked what their New Year's resolutions are. And they haven't even thought about it. So they have to come up with a I kind of wanna. And you're not going to get anywhere with your, I kind of wanna have this or do this or be that. There has to be a real depth of the desire. There has to be a process unfolding. Also, people think it's kind of easy, and sometimes there's more involved to it. It has an element of one's personal growth, moving beyond some old beliefs and old patterning. So there's a dynamic involved, and it's also, I think, has a bit to do with connecting with your higher self, like a divine destiny that's unfolding that should have your goals and ambitions and the things that you're pursuing evolving from a depth within you.
Wow. You know, I think you make a really good point around, again, we're starting into, you know, we think we just should do this every year, right? And that's just normal. But Ilona, what do you think is behind this? Why are we really drawn to doing these resolutions every year?
And I just unmuted myself. So, you know, you're asking, why do we do New Year's resolutions? And I would say, you know, there is a saying in German, it says, the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. And a lot of us are struggling between the sense of desires and maybe involve, you know, desire to eat, desire to be with people and to have an easy life. And then there is this nudging of our soul, like Howard said, that wants us to strive towards becoming a greater self, that higher self is calling. And these two forces, and let's just call it maybe gravity, the gravitational pull of life pulls us to the easier part, maybe to eating more, to exercising less, to do things the easy way, to save energy and conserve energy. And then at the end of the year, we go, oh, geez, you know, I didn't read the books I wanted to read. I watched way too many movies. I didn't eat the food I really should have eaten. And I know that, and we have that nagging knowingness inside. And I think some of us are better with discipline and sticking to it, and some aren't, and the willpower. But most all of us encounter this, maybe even on a daily basis, this inner struggle of becoming a greater self, and then this, oh, come on, another piece of chocolate won't hurt. And, you know, it's at New Year's, it's like the time comes to a total cycle, and we go like, okay, this time around, I'm really going to do it. And we go like, my New Year's resolution is, and we go, I'm not going to binge eat, or I'm going to exercise more, you know, like the typical stats that we find, you know, better food, better exercise.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But, and typically, this struggle is an ongoing struggle in our own psyche, and that is what makes us grow. So we should really welcome it and say, hello, friend, I'm glad you want me to go up. And yes, I realize I want it easy, but hey, let's just see how we can grow and evolve.
You know, and mom and dad, in your practice, it seems as though going right behind what Ilona was talking about.
Yeah.
We have this nagging feeling where, okay, I want to evolve, I want to grow, but it seems as though it comes out in how we think other people are perceiving us. Is that kind of like what you kind of find too?
That, and also it's a time that we are reminded of how we want to be when we grow up. And it reminds us that we want to be successful at something. So this lingering thought beneath the surface about this next year, I have another chance because I blew it off last year. I wanted to do it last year. I didn't do it. This is another shot. This is another opportunity for me. Because all of us want to be successful in something. And so the new year helps us to get in touch with maybe what that something can be, piggybacking on what we just heard.
I think we have, many of us have a vision of what we could be in terms, and that's pulling us into our growth opportunities. The problem with a lot of persons who make resolutions is it's kind of like a wish. I wish I could win the Publishers Clearinghouse, you know. But before you can do that, first of all, you got to be a part of the Publishers Clearinghouse community. You know, it means you got to sign up and all that kind of thing. So the point I'm making is, it has to be more than just a wish. It has to be a plan. What will I do in order to bring about the outcome that I'm seeking? And so I think that's extremely important. It's more than just hoping or wishing or thinking that some kind of magical way it's going to occur. No, we have to plan for that.
You know, I think about, you know, the stats around how many people are unsuccessful at doing their resolutions every year, which goes to everything that everyone's talking about in terms of this longing, but they just can't get there. I mean, 67% of us make resolutions, but only 9% of us actually even accomplish them. That's a huge, vast difference from what we believe we want to actually creating what we want. You know, Dad, you talked about the wish part of this, and it revolves around some things that I think you guys have talked about before, and that is that people have a poverty of options, right? Yeah. Where they only know to do it this way, right?
Yes.
And Ilona, you talk about this unresolved past behaviors, right? Where there's just this continual cycle of just doing it this way, and maybe in the future it'll change, but we know that if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result.
Well,
right?
We have an iceberg consciousness, right? The very tip is the conscious part, and that's the one who makes the New Year's resolutions. The deeper part of the iceberg, the subconscious, is programmed by society at an early age. I want to throw in there from past lives, but you know, that's here or there. Yeah. And from beliefs that somehow made their way into our conscious or subconscious mind that repeat themselves, like I'm not worthy enough, people don't love me, life is hard, or whatever we may have adopted from the world around us. So that's what we're fighting in part in our New Year's resolutions or any goals that we might set. And all the parts, you know, our friends are different. You know, maybe they keep partying, maybe they keep eating whatever, and we want to change. That's going to be challenging because we are a people animal. We want to belong. So having to deal with that in a relationship, you know, having my husband do one thing and me do another, you know, all those things are pulling on us. And so we need to be aware of that deeper subconscious part of us. And then, like you said, you know, the cycles repeat themselves until we deal with the parts in us that have a certain belief and find out what it really wants, and right. Then give it a way of expressing itself. So yes, that's,
you know, and Howard, when you were talking before about the fact that again, and because you can't stop this process. As you've said, life calls for and always demands change. Can you expound on that a little bit in terms of what you have tried to tell people over the years around that concept?
Well, everything is about moving energy. And so either you're moving energy forward or you're stagnating with it. And so a lot of people are into Velcro thinking and believing, in other words, they're stuck. They're stuck to old patterns. And it has to do with our conditioning, the conditioning of life from childhood on. And so a lot of it has to do with becoming more aware, standing at the door of your mind. Certainly inner growth, meditation, things like that really helps to have a mentor as well. I think that a big part of it is recognizing how strong a desire do you have for whatever the goal or the resolution that you have in mind. Resolution evolves from the word resolve, and resolve means to make a decision, and how firm is the decision determines the degree of commitment that you have to it and the energy you're going to put into it. And so again, sometimes we're picking something we're doing as a resolution because somebody else wants us to do it. It might be our husband or our wife. Do we really want it? Is it a should that's being placed upon us by another? Is it a should coming from ourselves? It's much better to get into, I would love to feel thinner. I would love to feel healthier again. I would love to write that book, and taking oneself to practicing the feeling of having achieved it generates some energies. And if you can have a consistency of those kinds of practices of moving to the feeling of what it would be like to achieve it and having that on a regular basis, it keeps pulling you there and has some reality for you.
Wow. And, Ilona, I think this points to something that we talked about, and that is, this is an opportunity that New Year's, when it comes around, specifically this New Year's 2019, is an opportunity to think and to grow differently, right? And that's kind of like what you're kind of drawn to, not to necessarily that we should make quote unquote resolutions. We should make goals, but in a different way. Am I correct in that?
Yes, and I like that you brought, and then, your show is called Soulivity, and originally, and then your first words you said, are, or in the words behind the curtains, we talked about connecting to the greater part of ourselves. So I think we need to ask ourselves, what is motivating us in life, period? Is it a particular success I think I need to have, or what is it in me that makes me tick and makes me happy? So the research into happiness and into flow states, when people are at their best and feel fulfilled, has to do with growing beyond the current state. So actually deciding to set goals, whether it's at New Year's or throughout the year, is a part of serving our inner human-most self, that when it grows beyond the capacity it previously had, it feels like it's expanding and it feels happy. It gets rewarded with a happiness hormone reaction in ourselves when we feel we're growing. So part of the pursuit of happiness, which is the carrot that all of us respond to, there is a technique and an ingredient, and that is pursue a greater you, a new you. And that is the show name of yours. And that is not just so we achieve something more and become bigger people or have more money, but so we grow as a being, and that feeds us happiness.
Wow.
And like Howard says, when we start doing it from passion, then we will have the endurance, and then we will take the energy and time to put into it continuously, so that we then see the fruits of our labor. So the joy, the passion has to come from a true desire to pursue whatever it is, and not from any shoulds. So let's liberate ourselves from shoulds, be aware that setting goals is healthy for ourselves, but choose the ones you really want to explore and become, whether it's discovering what dolphins think or gorillas think, those are some of the things I chose in my life. And just out of the spur, I read books, and it just took me onto a whole new life. It is phenomenal. I wrote books about it, had a dolphin research boat for 10 years, lived in Hawaii with my husband at a dolphin beach for 12 years. So all those things just from a desire to discover more about dolphins. And in the beginning, you don't know if it's just a hobby, a fancy thing, or it'll take you into outer space.
Wow. As both you and Howard were talking about these concepts, I'm drawn to you, Mom and Dad, around the things that we've kind of talked about on our shows together, which is that this is a very personal and a very inward journey. Mm-hmm. That you're changing your life from the inside out, right? Yeah. And what do you tell people about how to support themselves in this way? I mean, because there is psychology to this, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that we're literally, like you talked about the poverty of options, we're literally kind of reprogramming ourselves, that we're adding this new program. We're not deleting, we're adding something new so we can choose differently, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that we share with people is and support them to do, is to train their brain to perceive their experiences in the relationships and other areas of their lives in 3 different ways so that they have more options. And we talk about the 3 parts of the brain: the survival part, that's where the ego is. That's the part that Ed just got out. And then there's the logical part of the brain that can figure out, based on circumstance and reality, what can and cannot be changed. And then there's the heart, where the soul lives, where our purpose, our messages about what our purpose is in life resides. And so we say that it's important to allow that logical part of the brain to be the bridge between the survival brain and the heart, so that a person can become more in alignment to be the best and highest person that they can. So to focus on the qualities that they want to express. How do they want to be? Because we've been socialized to be in survival mode, to survive. And that part of us, that part of the brain, has more seniority than our logical part, as well as our evolving consciousness, our evolving expression of the highest qualities and characteristics that we were all born with. So one thing that I enjoy in our sessions with working, and we usually work with couples, we work with individuals too, but when we're supporting couples to bring out the best in themselves, and so that they can contribute that to their relationship, so that they not only feel happiness with each other, but that they take that way of being out into the world. Out into the world. So people tend to focus on what's wrong, because that's how we're wired. So to look at what people are doing on a day-to-day basis that raises the highest part of themselves, people are not aware of it. So when people are sharing and what have you, we tend to pinpoint on what quality did you just awaken within you or reinforce within you. They don't even think like that. And then they think about it and they'll say, oh, my capacity to be more present, my capacity to be more loving, my capacity to be more supportive. That is so exciting.
Wow. And Howard, we talked about that behavior follows thoughts and feelings, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That we create our own reality through this. Can you expand about that a little bit?
Yeah, I could. I just would love to just piggyback on what Melva was talking about there. There's a study done by Cornell about our regrets in life, and that they did hundreds of studies, hundreds of people, and they found that people's regrets are not what they do or did, but it's what they didn't do. They divided into a sense of self into three categories. One was the actual self, one was the ideal self, and one was the ought self. But the actual self is the one where we assess ourselves as having certain qualities. And then the ideal self is qualities we want to have or wish we had created. And basically the single biggest regret that people had, 76% of all these hundreds that took the study, was the regret that they did not fulfill their ideal self, which was they did not actually generate and create and live from qualities that they wanted to have. So what you're talking about is this higher self in us, that this ideal self is what they used in the study. But there's this dimension at a soul level that's calling us to live qualities. So when you develop, goals and resolutions, it's nice to have some that are external, material goals, fine, but it should be balanced with, as she used the term, qualities. Opening the heart, being more patient, being more kind, having more compassion, whatever it is that you as a soul really intuitively know is the next step. But behavior follows thinking and feeling. And so if you want to be more patient, if you want to be more kind and the different things, you kind of establish what does it look like. You establish then the criteria in thought, but not thought alone, because really the generator is feeling, the passion. That's where the generator takes you to actually achieving what it is, and maintaining the feeling is what will take you to the completion.
Wow. I love this panel. Let's put some meat on the bones. And I'm glad that you talked about that feeling is the generator, Howard. Ilona, this is what you do. This is part of what you teach people in your process.
Yes.
Where dreaming big begins with at the feeling level. Practice, harnessing and grounding that feeling, right?
Right. So yeah, just like Jesse and Melva said, we have the different parts of our brain. And what we're evolving into is our next step of the Homo sapien is the ability to combine the old brain stem, which is in the mammalian part, the feeling part, the right brain, which is the visual, seeing things in an abstract, holistic way, and then the logical part, which can put things into a sentence, and learn to combine them. And what happens is that the fuel that gives our dreams the power to manifest, and that is the language that the universe, or divine, whatever you want to call the bigger, greater picture of the universe, listens to the most easiest, is our feeling state. And let me use the image of the hologram. A hologram is the picture of something that if you shine a light through, you see it manifest out there. But if you cut a hologram into multiple parts and you shine the light through each part of them, each part reflects the same whole picture. So the same way is when we carry within ourselves, and it's a metaphor to express that as within, so without. And that if you carry a fulfilled feeling of a presumably future event in your emotional state right now, you get with it the whole picture of what it took to get there. You just fast forward yourself to the future. And the feeling part tells the universe it's already happening. I oftentimes, and I just did a webinar today on that part, I was swimming with dolphins, and I was always like hoping they'd come closer and closer. And my husband was swimming much closer to them than they were ever coming to me. They were coming like 3 feet away, which I thought was quite a far distance away. This is in the wild, unfed, untrained dolphins. But when I realized that the language to dolphins was the same as the language to the divine and my own higher self, is a felt sense of the end result. It's learning to time jump emotionally to the fulfilled state. Two things happen. You put out the fulfillment within yourself, and so you're not dependent on an external circumstance to bring you the fulfillment. You already feel it, right?
Wow.
So the universe then hears it as, oh, she is already there. Obviously, that's when you allow permission to get it. So here's what happens with the dolphin, or happened to me. I was like going, please come closer. And embedded in that sentence is, you are too far away, which is the carrot by the donkey's nose. And then I observed my husband being closer with them than I was. And so I thought, let me try that. Imagine them where I want them to be. Pretend in the beginning to feel as if it were happening. And you know what? Magic happened. The dolphins moved in that much closer. I had to overcome my fear of that much intense presence and closeness. And that's half the work. We have to overcome whatever resistance we have to have the amount of money, the kind of love, the kind of attention that we might dream of having, but then when we get it, we actually have to be able to receive it. And so by pre-rehearsing the fulfilled feeling state in advance, you give the universe the blueprint, the holographic picture show in advance, and the message that you can tolerate it and receive it into your energy field.
Wow. 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 Mom and Dad, now you talk about this not only with individuals about them setting goals, but also in bringing into their existence a relationship or modifying and improving relationships. What's the process that you guys go through? I know it's probably something similar to what Ilona was just talking about.
Oh, yes. Oh, very much in alignment.
I like to start off by just making this point, I think, which is important, and has certainly been important in my life, and that is to be aware of the fact that the universe is so committed to supporting us in being our very best self.
Wow.
That it will use every opportunity possible to support us in learning what it is we need to learn so that we might evolve into the very best selves we can imagine. And what that includes is not only in terms of how we relate to ourselves, but also how we relate to other people. And so just be aware of the fact that the universe is infinitely patient and will present us the lessons in as many ways as possible until we get it. It's just that committed.
Yeah, and so we set our goals in terms of how we want to be in life, in our relationships, in our situation. And then the universe will give us a test to tap into that quality. And so that test comes in terms of people in our lives who frustrate us and get on our last nerves, right? So we have an opportunity to explore different options about how to respond when we are frustrated or upset. So we like to support ourselves and support others to pay attention to what's really going on beneath the surface. Because what's really going on beneath the surface, no matter what is going on, is that a person is feeling disconnected from another person or from what it is that they want to experience. So to get to that a feeling of disconnect, it's really important to go to the logical part of the brain and just be aware of what is going on right now. What is missing for me in terms of this connection? You can even ask yourself, because those feelings that come up say that something is wrong. I'm not feeling disconnected to this person. There's a not feeling connected to people that you love hurts. And it's a scary feeling when you think that you don't have a way back to feeling reconnected. So one thing that is important to do, well, two things. One is to get clear on what it is that you want in terms of the kind of connection that you want and ask for it. And then in the process of communication and relating back and forth, listen for what the other person is saying in terms of their willingness to give it to you in that particular way, because it's important to be clear about what it is that you want. Whether you get it or not, it's important to celebrate and acknowledge that I opened up the options. So before you even get to that part, it's important to validate all parts of self. Validate that survival brain that says that something is wrong, because it is, you're feeling disconnected. Validate that logical part of the brain that says, okay, the only thing that I can change in this moment is how I approach this, how I look at this and how I approach this. Open up to the higher self, the soul within, and listen for guidance about how to approach it differently. And give yourself 3 different ways. So you have practice, so that you have options. So you can either continue to react from survival mode, or you can come up with 3 different ways from the soul, from the heart, and practice that over and over again. Start it off as a ritual. When you do a ritual over and over again, it becomes a habit. And then when you do that over and over again, it becomes integrated. And the part of you that you want to be more of expresses more fully and naturally. Wow. It takes work, takes time, but it's work.
Thank you. You know, Howard, we're talking about, I mean, it's almost like I want to back up a little bit. We're really talking about quantum living, aren't we? I mean, we've talked about this concept before. Ilona, we've talked about this concept before. Mom and Dad, we talked about this concept all the time, where at a quantum level, what you feel, what you believe becomes your reality in part through like this experience of molecules, all this kind of thing. But I just want to make sure that I put some meat on the bones based upon your teaching and your expressions around oneness, right? Where people really understand that this isn't just, you know, I'm going to pick up a book and read and then stuff just kind of magically happens, that this is actually a paradigm shift. You're changing and you're adding to what's already in terms of your belief systems.
Right. Well, in all of life, everything is energy moving, like I was saying. So a thought is creative. The more add to it, the more powerful it is. And so we're always either contracting or expanding in terms of dimensions of ideas and beliefs about ourselves. The key to any individual is where they are in terms of their personal identity. What is it that they identify with? How do they think of themselves? Do they love themselves? In fact, anything that you're wanting to move forward, you need to love yourself while you're going through it. I'll love myself when I get there. Very, very important. And again, the whole energy shifts. If you start from loving and totally accepting yourself, I am who I am. I'm having I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and I'm moving through these things. I'm learning and growing, and you have to cut yourself some slack and realize that you're not going to be perfect today. You may, in the ideal, be perfect. Spirit is calling you to that perfection, but you're opening to that idea. From the quantum standpoint, it's just knowing that everything is creating at all times. Every thought carries an energy. And so that's where meditation, I think, puts you in touch with this whole new unified, it's not new, but it's a unified field where you're united with the highest and best in you. You begin to develop and just formulate a stronger sense of an observing self that is actually standing at the door of your mind and recognizing if this is a contracting thought or if this is an expanding thought. Is this taking me into where I want to go, or is this a Velcro thought keeping me stuck in an old pattern, in an old limiting paradigm? And so, as has been mentioned, it is all about shifting to new paradigms, which is busting out of ideas and beliefs. And that requires awareness, that self-reflection, contemplation, quiet times, getting to know yourself, being honest with yourself as well. Very, very important. But the key is to love yourself on the way through. Begin with loving yourself. Love yourself all the way, because there's going to be some bumps in the road, and there are going to be some things where you take a couple steps back. But you got to love yourself going forward and hold fast to the vision of where you're going.
Wow. You know, speaking of vision, this dovetails into things that you talk about, Ilona, in that, again, connecting, it connects actually with mom and dad, what you were talking about with the brain, where we have to define what we want, right, from our heart. We have to move into what does that feel like? And then we have to have an image that grounds us, right? Describe this process in terms of how all those parts come together to manifest our goal.
So now you want me to respond to that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. I love what just Melva said. I love what Howard said, and what some of the components that are the same in there is that we're moving into a new way of understanding and becoming a human. And we know, at least in the last few thousand years that we have record of how we are humans, we've discovered things about the function of our mind and consciousness. Some of it has been taught through religion. You know, let's just be honest, prayer has been around for a long time. What we're saying now is taking that information and putting it into the more modern quantum understanding. Even Einstein did experiments around it and called it that was one of them was the EPR experiment, where he didn't believe it, but it was proven to be right, that information can travel faster than the speed of light. Now we can measure this now, which is revolutionary, and that's why I called my book Dream Big. The universe is listening. It's, first of all, that there is a dialogue going on between ourselves and a greater force. And if we learn how to combine the different parts of our conscious function and subconscious functions of our mind plus our feeling in order to communicate with the universe effectively, so that we can say, look, this is what I wish for, and then the universe replies. I mean, Jesus said, knock on the door and you will be answered. And the Essenes had the way to have a perfect prayer is to assume that your gift was given. Don't be like beggars. I believe Jesus said that. Don't beg for your wish fulfilled. It's like, assume it is done. Now we're taking it to another level, and we're realizing that indeed there is faster than light communication. The universe somehow is collaborating to support us, like Howard was saying. But what I would like to add is, and I'll come to the steps in a second, is I always tell people, take it as a working hypothesis and try it out for yourself. And we do have the hierarchy of needs, like Maslow discovered. You know, we need to have the butter on the table, the bread on the table, the physical survival. It's okay to take care of your income and your job, the home that you live in, and have those physical needs. And then as you progress in your skill to handle life, you will naturally rise into becoming a better human and to realize the higher aspects of your humanity, which then becomes being a spiritual being and in touch with higher forces. But take it as a working hypothesis, which means, let me try it out. Let's see if it can work for me. And when it does, I'll practice more of it. So let's get to the practice. Your mom and dad's and Howard all said, notice, become aware. And I like to use 3 words. I'll teach them to you. It's easy to remember. It's called stop, look, choose. What your mom was describing of, you know, acknowledge the survival brain, but just acknowledge the moment of dissatisfaction or when something isn't going right. But what we do is we step away from the film that's going on, and we step out of the matrix into the part of us that is conscious beyond the film. Right. And that is the part that can choose, does it like this film or another version of my film? You become the director of your own film at that moment when you step out. So when you find yourself in moments of dissatisfaction, and that's maybe a moment of New Year's resolution where it's going like, am I really going the right direction? You can ask yourself, wait, stop, look, what do I really want? And remind yourself of that question, what do I really want? And then allow yourself the quantum tool of co-creation and talk to the universe and say, what I really want, what Jess and Melva said, and what also Howard said, is pre-create the feeling of the end result. Have that passion for what you really want, and allow yourself the luxury of feeling it. So you have awareness coming in, stop, look, choose. Allow yourself to describe become aware of what you don't want and what's not working, and one that will inform you and give you the knowledge of what you really want. Your innermost self will give it to you if you say, what do you really want? This anger, I was driving on a train to Stuttgart late, and I had to arrive on time, and I said, what do you really want? This anger, that fireball inside of me. And it said, I want to be on time. And instead of chiding it with my left brain, my logical mind that said, well, kiddo, it's going to be late because all the clocks are showing us it's late, I said, okay, how would it feel if I were on time? And if I would meet my friend on time? My husband and I were traveling to meet a friend, and he was a classical musician and only free in that moment. We didn't have his future address. He was in the process of moving. It was crucial we met him in that short amount of time. We were arriving late, but I was feeling better. I'd pre-created in my mind this feeling of arriving and meeting our friend. The fulfillment was in my heart and bones.
Wow.
And we got out, and he wasn't there. And Don said, well, go look around. Maybe he's hiding, not giving up on this possibility the universe will provide what you hold in your mind.
Right.
And then he comes walking up to us and says, what are you doing here early? So I'm telling you, it's a working hypothesis. We all provide here different processes of shifting to understanding that we might live in a matrix of consciousness, and that the universe is listening to you, and that what you feel as a desire to become is your golden stepping ladder into your next higher expression of self.
Wow.
Whether it's the desire to have more money or a better job, but it will take you step by step to qualities of being a better you. Wow. And that's teaching us that we don't live in the universe that maybe our grandparents thought we lived in, the solid universe. We live in a universe that's flexible and responds to energy, to thought. And we get to be the directors of our film. So we need to make use of that energy every day.
Wow. You guys ready for some questions?
Yes.
Yay. All right. And then we'll wrap after this. We've got a two-parter, and this is from Sasha. Hi, Sasha. Do you have to know and understand who you are in order to live your best life? So many of us are walking around not being connected to what we want and how we want to feel. I'll throw that to you, Mom and Dad, first, and then I'll go to Howard and then Ilona.
Yeah. So, you want to start?
You can start.
So, yes, and know who you are in different aspects of your life without judging, because we show up in different ways in different circumstances. When things are going well, our highest self shows up, and to be able to describe that highest self is really important. When we are not feeling our best, our survival part shows up, and it's real important to honor that part, to know that it has a positive intention to keep us safe. So creating safety so that that part can relax and that we can tap into our other qualities, because that's one quality. We don't have to give it up, just acknowledge it. Let it sit next to us, we take the wheel, it sits next to us, and then we open up to the other qualities that are already in us, within us, that have not had an opportunity to express.
Gotcha.
That's also who we are. So looking at all aspects of ourselves and delighting in who we are and how we were able to accomplish whatever we have accomplished in life, and just say to ourselves, and then I want to express more of this part and this part and this part, without giving up the parts of us that really exist.
Right, right.
Well, I'll just add to that. I guess I'm thinking about people say often, you need to know yourself. But what self? Because the self that we often live by is not our true self, it is the socialized self. It's the part of us that has been taught by society about who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, da 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 da. And from my perspective, that's not our true self.
Mm.
We must live from a higher place than that. And as has been said so far, by taking the quiet time, going within, meditating, using all those tools and so on, we get in touch with our true self. And as Howard said, we are the spiritual beings having a human experience. But to live from that higher place, one of the illustrations I give sometimes is, let's say, for example, there is an accident on Woodward Avenue, which is a major thoroughfare here in Detroit, and persons have viewed that accident from the ground level, and from that level they see the accident and any congestion that occurs at that level. But if you were looking at it, the same accident from the top of the Renaissance Center, which is several stories high, you see a lot more than the people who can see on the ground level.
Mm.
And so the place where I want to live is I want to live from the higher planes. Because when I do that, I see more of life. I see more of what is possible. I see more of what the divine wishes for me, has for me to do. And so that my life is more fulfilled.
Wow. Thanks, guys. Howard, what do you think?
He stole a little bit of what I was going to say. I love it. And Ilona, I think, has got the same, she sounds like, appears like she's coming from the same place too, but I really make a distinction between the who and the what, and Jesus did too. And, who we are has a lot to do with our external. Who I am as a body. I have a body, but I'm not my body. I have a mind, but I'm not my mind. I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. All of those things are shifting and changing. And sometimes we think the who that we are is our car, our house, our vocation, our medals, our achievements, our degrees, our relationships, our wonderful, but that's not necessarily alone what we are. What we are is whole and perfect and complete. And in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus talks about this, and he says, if you bring forth what is within you, I can't remember the ending, it's like, you will be really fulfilled. He didn't say it that way, but that's the essence. If you do not bring forth what is within you, the what, it's not so good, and I don't remember the words, but you're not fulfilled, and you're not really completing your destiny. And so look for the Gospel of Thomas on that. But it's a very powerful thing. And Carl Jung talked about the idea that the first half of our life is developing an ego, in which we're forming an identity as related to the world in which we live. We're trying to be accepted. We're trying to fit in, all of that. That's the first half of our life. And if we get to the place of a realization, the second half of our life, at some point at least, becomes doing away with the ego and connecting with the what, and not worrying about so much how we're perceived as a who. So those are my thoughts.
Wow. Thanks, Howard. Ilona, what do you think?
Okay, and I'm hoping that for the viewership, the video has shifted, because I've, on my end, kept seeing my face. But anyways, so Sasha, I appreciate that question a lot, because how do we know what that higher self looks like? How do we get there? How do we get in touch with it? And do we have one? And what is it? I remember when I was young, I was in my 20s, I had listened to a lecture by Dr. Vern Wolf about the holographic nature of the universe and consciousness. And he said, dip your cup into the ocean of life and make your choices. And
Wow.
and then I stood around in the hallway, and he was talking with a couple of people, and he turned to me at one point and he said, you have a higher self, right? A full potential, he called it, a full potential. And it just hit me in the moment. Yeah, I'm like going, yeah, I do. But just being presented with such a forceful, you've got one, made me jolt into, yeah, I do. And I felt this essence being, and it's like full potential. And then I later on trained with him. And, you know, some of the things we get to do is play with our imagination, just like children do. And we get to be the man in the moon. We can make ourselves up to be the whatever best being that we can imagine. And since, you know, I've taken people through these trainings over the last 35 years, through meditation, through guided focused training of how to manifest goals, living from vision. And what people easily can do is make up an image of a more profound self than they currently have, an ideal self. And I oftentimes say, well, imagine if you were to encounter yourself in a future moment, and that future were coming towards you now. And you can do a little experiment with yourself. Go into an imaginary place of peace and imagine being there, touching the ground with your feet, and then go and ask the divine, or ask yourself, that this future self of you comes walking up towards you, and that you encounter yourself as your future self. And we all know intuitively that we will evolve. And this future self has greater qualities, greater energies, greater abilities, greater radiance, greater ability to express love and light. And you just allow yourself to take that in and get as close as you want. Today, I took people into a guided meditation where I had them imagine meeting this master being, this masterful being, a he, she, or even an it, and have it come closer. And then eventually they merged and became the masterful being themselves and took on the qualities of this masterful teacher. And it reminds me of one of the gurus in India that I encountered. He said, assume that you're masterful, assume your mastership. Don't beg for the carrot like a donkey. Assume that you walk into your ideal self, and do that on a daily basis. And the rehearsal, like Melva said, the rehearsal of feeling the positive qualities that you want to express, creates pathways, first of all, in your own neurological pathways, in your emotional body, in your biochemistry, but is also in a subtler dimension at a holographic level where you start creating a new matrix of who you are. And then reality starts filling in the reality material and fills in, and you will be able to surprise yourself by learning to manifest your goals. You'll also learn to manifest your higher self. You will go in tandem into a higher expression of your qualities, because the nature of life draws out of us and wants us to evolve. That's what life is designed to do. It creates more complex structures to express more of what there was before. So, Sasha, thank you for your question, and just imagining that futuristic self walking towards us doesn't require that we even know what it's like, but our fantasy, our imagination can fill in the blanks, and then we make that contact, and you'll start feeling that energy impregnating your consciousness and your beingness.
Wow. I told you guys this was going to be a great show. Told you. We're going to do one more question and then we'll wrap. I know we're right at 2:00, but this is such a great show, and I want to make sure that we start people off right in the new year with a new attitude and a paradigm shift. This next question is from Diane. Hi, Diane. How does one realistically deal with the complexities of their day-to-day and their impact on feelings and thoughts while working on this paradigm shift? Who wants to start on that one? Okay, Mom, go for it. Oh, unmute. I got you. Go for it.
Okay, I believe in preparing for the day. I believe in thinking about how you want to show up each day. So the be, do, have principle. How do I want to be so that no matter what happens today, I can tap into feelings of peace, love, joy, gratitude? How do I want to be? How do I want to present myself and show up every day? The universe is going to give you an opportunity to experience that on many, many levels. Sometimes on a high level, many times, because when you get to work, or sometimes before you leave your house, something's going to disrupt your feeling of connection. So if you're already prepared for how you want to be and how you want to approach life, then you're prepared for your day. And so it's also important that you process whatever happens in terms of the ways that you feel in alignment with people you work with, people that you live with, and what have you. And at the end of the day, to do your gratitude list, to think about all the successes that you had. It could be tiny, 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 but acknowledge every success that you had that is in alignment with those feelings that you want to have, because what you focus on expands. So if you focus on what is working, you'll get more of what is working. And yes, the universe will give you more opportunities to fine tune that.
Wow. I see. I love the nod head, the nodding heads. Ilona, what is your take? Give us some more on that. Because I can tell everybody's like,
Okay, all right, let's go. What do we do with our day-to-day interference? This is what Diana is asking. Yeah, what if day-to-day hands us a little bit of a harder ball? Or what if the emotions come up? What do I do with it? And it's a technique I call learning from problems, again, from Dr. Vern Wolf. He developed it, called holodynamics. You can read up in many of my books. I describe the book is step by step. I describe this resolution process. So even I have a children's book out in all over the world, and children are practicing this. What you need to do, what we all need to do, and again, it comes back to mindfulness and becoming aware, is just acknowledging if something isn't going well, maybe I feel angry, hurt, disturbed by a moment, by an experience, and just allowing yourself to take a moment and feel yourself. And Howard mentioned that, love yourself for who you are in the moment. Don't fight. Don't say, no, I shouldn't be. I should be saying something, feeling different, being different. Just take a moment to feel the unrest, the pain, the struggling, the whatever it is that it caused, the event in your life, and take it as an opportunity, because it will become a stepping stone for you to change the disturbance into your fulfillment. And this is how we do it. You take the event, look at it, you say, okay, so the stop, look, choose, you can apply that. What do I feel? You stop, you look, you take a look at what do I feel? I feel heavy, constricted, tight, angry, fiery, fireball in the tummy. Which color does it have? Which shape does it have? Give it an identity so you can play with it. Take it outside of you so you can communicate with it. And then you go and say, what have you been doing for me? A big mess, upsetting things, getting the voices heard. I got it. This is what Howard says is, it will take us to loving that part. And then we say, well, what do you really want? And it goes like, somebody's listening. Well, and it always wants something beautiful, always. Embedded in all negative things is its positive potential, bar none. And we've taken thousands of people through these processes. It's all cultures, all humans. We all dive from the dark into the light and wish to express something and want to grow in our strength and our being loved and our ability to love, into feeling good. So now we have the two. And Howard mentioned, the importance of loving yourself. And this is where we go and say, thank you to the negative. Gratitude, like Melva said. Thank you for wanting something so beautiful. Now we have the quantum paradox. No two things, the Schrödinger cat, can't exist simultaneously. And you'll ask, the higher supersedes the lower. The one that is contracted, Howard was using contracted and expanded. The contracted will absorb into the expanded. And the expanded can take with its compassion and understanding that which didn't used to exactly get what it wanted, but wanted this beautiful thing, and it'll merge itself into its own fulfillment.
Wow.
Where two become one, the miracle of creation will happen. You will create the paradox of merging into it creates a black hole and you shift into a new quantum field. So Diana, what we need to do is take the opportunity of a negative emotion, listen to it, find out what it really wants, and transform it, allow it to become its fulfillment. Again, feel that fulfillment and let it radiate from you, and it will create the new matrix around you.
Wow.
I hope that answered the question in steps.
Oh, I love it. Howard, what do you think, my friend?
Well, it's been spoken to very well by the others, but I would just add simply always knowing that you can stand in the true identity of the what that you are, that says that there is that within me that is always greater than any circumstance or any condition that I can face in life. It is always greater. And therefore, this is an opportunity for me to learn and grow as I face this circumstance, whatever it is, to feel my way through the feelings that come up. If the feelings aren't that great or that wonderful, they're there as a learning device to be able to notice that they don't feel all that great. Therefore, there's a perception that needs to change, another look, a higher way, a higher view of it, that all feelings essentially fully felt lead to the feelings of love. They bring you back to oneness with love. The love of life, the love of people, doesn't matter what or how they're showing up. Ultimately, they are part of the all that is.
Wow. Oof. I got shivers on all those answers. Wow. Thank you for that. And thanks for your question, Sasha and Diane. I want to end this, as always, as I do on a lot of these shows, on some practicality, something that people can take away today. I mean, if they're taking away a lot, I hope people go back and they rewatch this, because there's a lot of great information that's been talked about. Some final thoughts in terms of, from each of you, around the practicum. Like, what's one thing that you would like to gift someone in terms of a thought that they can take away after they watch this? So, Ilona, I'll start with you.
Mute? Okay. Well, you know, it very spontaneously, the word 2 breaths came in. You know, create an anchor, whatever it is, that allows you to step back. That stop, look, choose 3-point method that I talked to you about. Allow something you know that you can do instinctually, that you've trained yourself on, and train yourself on something. 2 deep breaths are a way to step back out of the emotions that entangle you and want to keep a particular narrative going, a drama usually. Step back, take 2 deep breaths, and like Howard also said, like Melva said, is in that observation, soul insight comes in, and you're no longer glued to the drama, but you have choice. It's just stepping back. So 2 deep breath, stop, look, choose.
Wow. Wow. Mom and Dad, Jesse and Melva?
Well, the first thing that came into my mind, 4 R's. First R is reflection, managing mood, managing feelings, and letting your feelings teach you how to go within deeper and connect. So reflect on what's going on. Taking time, the second R is to reconsider your options. So you can react from a survival mode, or you can go inside and you can tap into other ways of expressing. The third R is expressing self from the highest part of you. So that means you have to take time to be quiet so that you can get that message about how to express in the highest way. And then the fourth R is results. Notice your results. Because since what we focus on expands, if we focus on what's working and what we want to grow and develop within us, we'll get more and more and more. We do have.
All right.
The word that came to my mind was revision.
Mm.
And it relates to what I was saying earlier about how the universe is infinitely patient and determined to support us in being our very best selves. But in order to do that, things will come into our life experience in any given day at any given time, and we make a judgment around that, and which is usually a negative judgment. And so when we go into that place, then we're feeling awful and defeated and all those sort of things. And so I'm suggesting that we revise the way we're thinking about any situation, and really see that as an opportunity for personal growth, and to use the tools that Ilona and Melva has mentioned in terms of,
And Howard.
in terms of what can I do in order to shift my consciousness out of this defeatism into one of love and openness and expansion and so forth. So how you see it is the way it is. And that's a basic universal principle that has been around for a long time, that your life experience is how you really view it. So if you want a different experience, you've got to view it differently.
Wow. Howard?
Well, I always like to say that, we move from the survival mode of living, which is about life and death, into a more advanced mode, which is about life and depth, in which we begin to recognize there's a depth in all of us that is divine. We have the spiritual DNA, which is divinity now accessed. And to live from your true identity and never lose sight of the fact that you have the most powerful force and power and presence that you have access to moment, if you'll just turn to it, look to it, welcome it, embrace it, and let it be embracing you. Life lived fully.
Wow. Wow. I don't know what more to say other than thank you. This has been an awesome show. Something I said earlier to all of you around sharing is, that you're sharing oneness, you're sharing living from vision, which turns into mining some gold in your own life. So thank you so much. Would you guys come back in like maybe 6 months and we'll do like a refresher for everybody?
I would love that. And I think that's a really good idea, because now we're all prepped to have New Year's goals, and maybe some of us are still remembering them. What was it? Now, make sure you have the feeling as if you're already in the future, but in 6 months, let's revise. How am I doing with my goals? So half of the trick of getting there is sticking with it,
Yes.
repeating the mechanisms that we know work, being in the future fulfilled now.
All right. So everybody, 6 months from now, watch this space. We're going to do, another show with the panel and keep this going. I mean, this is a lifelong kind of thing, and not just this life, into your next lives as well. So, look, you can learn more about these incredible people by visiting their websites and, of course, buying their books. For Howard, you can go to howardcaesar.com. Remember to get his new book, 1 + 1 = 1, and learn how to become happier by making oneness a way of life. For Jesse and Melva, you can get more support on how to heal conflict by visiting their website at jesseandmelva.com and starting their Communicate to Connect from the Inside Out program. And don't forget, they have an awesome book as well, Mining for Gold in Your Marriage, which is, all these books are available at amazon.com, by the way. And Ilona, of course, you can find out more information about her, as well as how and where to buy her book, Dream Big, The Universe is Listening, as well as her incredible program called Living from Vision, on how to manifest and creating a better life for yourself, by visiting Ilona Selke. That's ILONASELKE.com. So I want to remind everybody.
and a free app so you can start your day right. Like
right.
Melva said, it's so important to start your day, pre-envision your anticipated future. Go to bed with gratitude. Even if you don't listen to the app, it only takes 10 minutes of doing your own meditation. It's easy when you're guided, but start doing it now. Pre-create your success and be grateful for all the little successes throughout the day at the end of the day.
Excellent. Excellent. I love it. I love it. I love it. See, you get free stuff here too. I also remind everybody that you have access to this video and all our other inspirational videos by downloading our mobile app, which is available at Google Play and the App Store. Go do that today. Don't forget, rewatch this, get some more knowledge, integrate it into your life, change your world, okay? That's what we're about. That's what these people are about doing as well. It's all our purpose and our passion. Until next time, this is Brian Westley Johnson's on behalf of myself and these absolutely phenomenal people saying all of you, thanks again for joining, wishing you love, passion, and of course, a Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Soulivity Magazine brings you the best in inspiration on Soulivity TV. Check out our new shows. Mark your calendars for Soulivity Magazine shows by going to soulivity.com now.